So, welcome to our emotional intelligence workshop. This is like such a great topic for everyone. I always say, like, for the ones who think they don't need it, they're the ones that probably need it more. Because a part of emotional intelligence is self awareness. So, you got to have that self awareness to say, hey, I need to expand and grow, right? So, my name is Michelle Fletcher. I'm the founder of the Holistic Business Network. I believe I've met so many of you. I know many of you, your members. Arlana, I'm not sure if I've met, but Swan, I just met last week, Tuesday, a week ago, and she was very excited to actually join this. So I'm glad you're here, Swan. The Holistic Business Network is a community of health and wellness practitioners and businesses that I have created multiple platforms to help raise their visibility the in the marketplace. I was thinking network marketing in the marketplace, because too many health and wellness businesses, natural health and wellness businesses, are the best kept secret. And so, in order to get you out there, let people know that there's so many different ways for them to heal, we need to have you visible. And so that's my goal, to get as many of you that are doing amazing work as visible as possible in a number of ways. So we do that with collaboration within the network. We do that outside with different platforms I have created. And also, what is really happening this year is a lot of really aligned collaborations. So there's a lot of people reaching out, wanting to collab and get you guys in their rooms, which is even more amazing. So just stay tuned. If you're not part of the network yet and you want to learn more, we can talk some more. But tonight is an event that usually I have these workshops to help with, like, personal growth and development for the health and wellness business owner, because a lot of times we're working in silos. We're not getting a lot of that pouring into. We're always pouring out because we're serving everyone else, but we're not getting poured into. So this is an example of the type of workshop or communication we have to help you grow. And so, such an honor to have Wesley Saunders with us tonight. If you haven't met him before, hold on to your seats, because he is just such an amazing, like, character, and all the things he brings to wellness. So good. So I know, Wes, you had a short, like, little presentation. Should I play that now? Should I introduce you first?
You can go ahead and introduce me. I guess the clip wasn't 100% necessary. It was just going to be a nice little additive.
No, it can be played. I think it's going to be really good. So, for those of you that don't know Wesley, Wesley is a former NFL player, and you're going to hear his story, because it wasn't all, like, just roses that he went through. He had a lot of challenges during his time in the NFL, and after he left the NFL, he got into the wellness industry, juicing, created his own plant powders that he distributes. He does emotional wellness workshops. He does breath work. He does so much in the community. Like, I know I'm missing so many things, but he does so many things all surrounding health and wellness, and just the most down to earth. And if a former football player you will probably meet, and not afraid to just share his truth. And it's not all pretty, but he shares his truth, and it makes you feel more comfortable to share your truth. So, with that being said, do you want me to play that video now, or was it for the end?
We can save it for the end.
Oh, okay. We're saving it for the end.
Yeah, we can save it for the end. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
So, with that being said, I'm turning it over to you, Wes, and then we're going to get into the conversation.
All right, let's do it.
So first, I want you to share who you are, and just a little bit about you, and then we're going to get into how emotional intelligence ties into so much of our lives and what we do.
Okay. Well, I think you did a great job introducing me. For those on the call who I haven't met yet, yeah, my name is Wes Saunders. former NFL athlete with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Indianapolis Colts. But now I am a wellness practitioner. I like to say you can't spell wellness without Wes. All right, that's my tagline, because I found multiple ways of healing myself, whether it be spiritually, emotionally, and physically, over the course of my 37 short years on this earth. I feel like I'm 37 going on 107, with some of the lessons that I've learned in my life. I started coaching about 3 years ago after I started my company in 2020, Win with Wes, which was based around juicing and gut health. And then I realized some of the guys I was dealing with, they wanted to talk more than just nutrition and health and weight room. Some of my teammates that were in the NFL were dealing with a lot of issues that didn't have anything to do with money and a lot to do with mental health. A few of my former teammates committed suicide over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. That really affected me because I had always been told that money makes you happy, and once you get everything you want, you'll be okay. And I realized we had a huge problem in the NFL, and it stemmed a lot from drug abuse, which was my issue. I was suspended twice in the NFL for 12 games total, $450,000 worth of fines. And I was struggling with an opioid addiction, very much one that was presented by the NFL. All right, so they caused the addiction and they suspended me for the remedy that I tried to find to counteract that, which was Adderall. All right, methamphetamines, which help counteract the opioids. Which anybody ever been on an opioid before, I'm sure you know it makes you drowsy and lousy, and you kind of, not coherent. And so, yes, after that suspension, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about health and nutrition, what I can and can't put in my body. And of course, Michelle, you've heard this quote many times, but my favorite quote is, once you have ruined your reputation, you can live quite freely. And I found that by public humiliation, with my name being on ESPN and all of these websites for not the best light, but I was able to understand, I don't really care about people's opinions as much as I thought I did. Once you have thousands and thousands of people writing in on Twitter and on Instagram and calling you an idiot and talking about your parents, you get numb after a while. I hate to say it, if it bothers you for a little bit, then you get numb, and then you reach another plateau where you really don't care at all. Then you start to focus on yourself. You start to focus on those around you, and you build a little bit, you get callous a little bit. For those of you who lift weights, sometimes you go in there, you got that fresh skin on your hand, and then the weights, feel a little rough on your hands. And then after day 3 or 4, you get that callus on your hand, and things are easier to grip. And I feel like I got a tighter grip on life going through some of the things that I went through. And we talk about this emotional intelligence thing. That's such a broad term because it's so specific to each person. I know personally people I deal with who are dealing with different levels of emotional intelligence or lack thereof. And I want to present that even though we're talking about emotional intelligence, I know some really smart people who do dumb things. So emotional intelligence, is kind of one of those terms where you got to look at the broad sense. I know some people are emotionally indoctrinated. All right. Some of the smartest people I know are indoctrinated in this country by whatever they've been taught in school. And now we got to unlearn everything we've been taught. And I think a lot of that started in the home. Obviously, we learned a lot of our emotional traits from our parents, grandparents, cousins, siblings, whoever, and it's not always shown in the best light. So I've taken it upon myself to kind of reach out to those who I know I can help, starting with my family and then my teammates, and then it has reached a broader spectrum just off word of mouth. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Michelle.
No, thank you for being here. And so I went live with Wes a few weeks ago, and I was talking to him about, how it seems that, with NFL players, they go through this track of where they're just celebrated for their athletic ability, but they're not really poured into to where they do gain a lot of emotional intelligence, right? Maybe on the field they have that intelligence, but outside the field, we see that they make a lot of really bad decisions. And so Wes was like, he was that person, but because of all the challenges he had, getting kicked out and all the experiences he had and watching teammates suffer, he's really upped his ante on what he's learning. So I was gonna touch on what they call the 5 pieces to emotional intelligence. The first one is
who is they, Michelle? Who is they?
this is a Google search real
Okay,
quick.
because you know everybody emotional intelligence ain't the same, so we got to figure out who we referencing here. But okay, go ahead.
This is just a broad one, but I want to hear what you have to say. So this is like, if people are wondering what's emotional intelligence, what are the qualities? They say these are the 5 qualities, but we're going to hear what Wes has to say about this. First one is self-awareness. Second is self-regulation. Third is motivation. Fourth is empathy. And the 5th is social skills. Okay. So what do you have to say about that, Mr. Wesley? Do you have more to add, some to take away? What do you think?
I agree. I agree with all of those, but obviously I think step number 6 is execution, right? So we talk about intelligence. It's all of that sounds great, knowing what to do. I think obviously knowing when to do it is more important, but also execution. I see a lot of people who know, hey, I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably shouldn't have done that, but they do it anyway, and it happens all the time. Right. So it's kind of, I like the self-awareness is great. Hey, I know people who say I got a bad temper. I got to watch my temper. Well, your temper's been like that for 25 years. Right. What have you done to get rid of it? I got family members like that. People pride themselves on having bad tempers. So you're self-aware, but you just haven't executed what you know you need to do. Right. So I some of this stuff, I think people can play both sides of the fence. And I think that's the important part, is the accountability factor. Like, hey, you gotta, even when it don't feel good, you gotta practice some of this stuff.
That is so true, because I know for a fact I see a lot of people say a lot of things and they never execute on them, and I'm like, oh, it sounds so good, but if you're okay, they need to add that to that list, because that's pivotal, because it's eye-opening too, because you see the fruit of whatever, they say you always look for the fruit of what people are talking about or saying they're going to do. Look at what the fruit is of that. Yep. Okay. So I wrote some notes here because I wanted to make sure I covered certain things. So for you, I know you learned a lot of your emotional intelligence through the challenges you went through. What are some other ways you think that people can, outside of working with you, because I know you actually help people through this, how do you help people through gaining more emotional intelligence?
Oh, I just hold the mirror up. I don't consider myself to be a guru. I just hold the mirror up and we look right back at you, right? And so some of the things that I had to deal with, for instance, was self-sabotage. I would ruin things for myself. And I think that came from the athletic world, where I was so good athletically, I could wait till the last minute. I was pretty lazy too. I wasn't like the guy who worked hard and I was the first one in the gym and I was coach's favorite. I was the exact opposite. I was a terrible teammate. I just happened to be a phenomenal athlete. I'm bigger than all the kids. I've always been given special preferential treatment since I was a child growing up in North Carolina. So my ego was already on another level before, dealing with some of the issues that I've dealt with. So, I just, hold a mirror up. A thing on my end was, my ego and things coming easy to me. And then sometimes I would make it harder on purpose just to give myself a challenge. And I did that in life. I would do a lot of stupid stuff that didn't really, I'm a smart guy, but I would do stupid things. And I had to, be accountable for some of the things, some of the actions I was doing that didn't add up to me being smart. And of course, on top of that, I got a strong Black father. He was able to pull me out and be like, hey, you acting like a fool right now, right? This is not you, and you're embarrassing me. So I think a part of the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, I think I would add in selflessness, because a lot of times we're talking about emotional intelligence for ourselves, but we don't think about how our actions are going to make somebody else feel. Now you're controlling somebody else's emotions. And so now you got to be double emotionally intelligent, because, hey, am I taking my anger out on my sister, on my husband, on my spouse, whoever, right? And so I always say, do no harm, right? Like the Hippocratic Oath. If I'm leaving a space, I don't want to leave it any worse than when I arrived. And some people are not cognizant of that. I run into them all day, every day in Miami, right? Everybody especially now, everybody's walking around with a chip on their shoulder. It's getting harder to be kinder. It's getting harder to be vulnerable and trustworthy with people when everybody's scamming and taking advantage of people. So I think now is the space we're in, the climate, we really got to tune up our quote unquote emotional intelligence because people are taking advantage of good people.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And for you, I feel like it might have been a bit of humbling that brought you way more emotional intelligence. I think sometimes,
That was number six. Number six was humility. Yeah, I was gonna
oh,
put that there. Yeah,
oh, so let's touch on that because there's people that may want to move forward, but without having that humility, do you think they can move forward in trying?
absolutely not. You have to. You got to. Everybody plays the fool sometimes. I don't know if you remember that song back in the day. The main ingredient. Everybody plays the fool sometimes. And so people are so focused on not playing the fool that they end up putting a guard and a protection over themselves where you got to let loose. You got to let it go. Hey, I was part of my story. I have two beautiful children, Cameron and Sebastian. They're both 11 years old, and I love them dearly, right? But they were born 2 months apart. So at the time, I had two women pregnant, and it was a PR nightmare, right? One of my son's mom went to TMZ, and it was all over Shade Room and on ESPN that this football player had two women pregnant. They were fighting. One is white, one is black. They made it a race thing. It was pretty terrible. And I didn't handle it the best at the time. I was 24 years old. And what I learned from that though is I had to tuck my tail between my legs and go to my son's mom and apologize for handling things terribly. I thought I had to choose one or the other. I thought, things were happening so fast as a young kid. I made the wrong choice. And then by the time I made the wrong choice, I thought, oh, well, I can't backtrack now. But biblically speaking, you got to be humble. You got to, hey, if you have wronged someone, you got to go to them and ask for forgiveness, right? You have to hope that they can show you grace. And most of the time they will. But unfortunately, in this climate, this day and age, most people double down on their mistakes. They won't admit that they was wrong. It was somebody else's fault. You made me do it, and there's no accountability. So that humility part, which shows up a lot in the good book, is super imperative to any kind of emotional intelligence, whether you're a boss, employee, whether you're starting a business, whatever you're doing or dealing with, you got to come at it with a humble spirit.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. And you touched on the next thing. I wonder if is accountability on your list?
Accountability is there, but humility and accountability go hand in hand.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is why it's good to have people that are in your around you that can speak truth into you because sometimes we don't see it, right?
Well, and also I want to say, hey, it's not surprised that we have so many women in here right now, right? And everything I'm talking about, I think women pick up on that easier than men. All my clients, my first clients were all men, very successful men, and these are the most hard-headed guys I've ever dealt with, right? They don't feel like, especially if in life and in America, they've been told that they're successful, they're the pinnacle of success. Why would I listen to you if I've done everything that society tells me is success? And it's harder to penetrate that mindset because, hey, I was 22 years old when I got to the NFL, and all of a sudden I'm the head of the family. People are calling me from all over the family about family decisions that I've never been a part of before, ever. Like grandma, auntie's house out in Texas, and somebody need a washer and dryer out in Kansas City, and everybody's calling me, right? And I understood from that point on, my checkbook meant a lot more than my age or my wisdom or anything. So all of a sudden, I'm poking my chest out and sending Christmas gifts all over the country, and I thought that was power. I thought that was leadership, but it was not, right? It was really just, I hate to say it, enabling by my family, right? I wish my family would have treated me regularly instead of putting me up on this pedestal, because I'm the youngest in the family. I always just been Wes. And all of a sudden, I've been put in a new position. So sometimes our environment can have to make us switch what we thought our emotional intelligence is.
Okay. Yes. 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 So it's interesting because you say you worked with some really high level executives and that type of thing. And once you have that success, I feel like it's like you said, it's harder to penetrate like these truths into them on how to become more of a humble leader. So how do you go about that, working with that level of a person who's seen the success despite themselves, right? Despite all the things and the characteristics. How do you work through that? And I know we're a bunch of women on here, so we're more open. I think women are more open.
Way more open, way more open. That's why y'all go and get in these women's circles and women's empowerment events and come back 1,000 times better. And all the men are looking like, why is she so happy? What you grinning about? Right? And we far behind. But I will say the number one thing that I've noticed that get men, at least in the realm of understanding what we're talking about, is divorce. Divorce has broken many great men, and especially when the woman is the one who files, and a lot of these guys, the wife has usually been the you think you look on screen and you see these multi-million-dollar athletes who taking care of the house, who is taking these kids to school every day and making sure everything is running properly at the home. So a lot of guys, they get finished, they got a bunch more time on their hands, and they think divorce is the answer. And a year or two later, they are depressed and sad and they want their woman back, or obviously they lose a lot in the divorce. I've seen it get ugly as far as monetarily, and they lose half of their belongings and half of everything they've ever gained through the divorce. So unfortunately, heartbreak is the number one aspect to get through to men, unfortunately. But I think just life in general is how women usually approach it. I think women go off of experience, and they can just, hey, once a woman is done with a tumultuous situation or relationship, she's not going back. It might take a long time for you to get to that point, but usually women are steadfast in their decision making. Guys, we're stupid. We'll go back and forth all the time to the thing that we know we should stay away from, especially gambling. Gambling is another big thing that I've been dealing with the last year, 18 months. Huge issue.
That people you're working with have.
Yes, yeah. Well, in general, people I'm working with and globally, I'm just saying gambling is like a huge, guys are going into debt, pulling out their 401k to gamble it.
Yeah, we saw that scandal that happened. I think that was the end of last year with the basketball betting. And
correct. Yeah. Now guys are in the game. Yeah, it's not even just us watching. It's people in the game who are not emotionally intelligent enough to say, hey, this one bet could derail my whole career and I'm out of the game. Like, you're banned from the NBA, and hey, for some guys it's worth it, but part of that is weighing the risk reward factor of what we're doing. And I don't think we do that quite enough.
I think women do that more. We're always
y'all are great at it. Y'all are great. Y'all are calculated. Yeah, I mean, y'all the one who chooses the man, right? No man don't choose a woman. Women decide whether or not they will let a man pursue them, right? Man thinks they're pursuing you. You decide whether you let us pursue you or not, right? And so y'all usually hold all of the power.
I love it. So I'm gonna bring this into, like, as a wellness entrepreneur, right? Because I'm constantly in rooms where we're connecting and networking, and there's people that you connect with that make you feel good, that you're having a great connection with. And then there's also people that you're like, oh, you're kind of repelled because of the lack of emotional intelligence that they have, right? So let me give an example, where you can be somewhere and someone is just talking about themselves the entire time. They don't ask you one question about what you do. They might not even know your name, but they're talking. And sometimes people are just talking so much that they talk themselves into something and right out of it because of all that talking. How do you address that? Should the person that they're speaking with even address that? Because I'm like, I know that that's a lack of emotional intelligence. Like, they're not reading the room. They're not reading the person's body language. What do you say about that?
Well, honestly, I run into that all the time, especially, playing in the league. You run into all these former athlete guys who want to tell you about their glory days from high school and how many touchdowns they scored in ninth grade. And, it's almost like a competition thing. So I'm nice now. I let people talk more than I do. But in those situations, I'm usually the guy that's thinking about a million other things while they're talking. I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm also thinking, like, did he have siblings that there were older siblings that never let him talk, or did this person have, a household where they were muzzled and couldn't speak out how they wanted to, and now this is their chance to talk all the time? Um, I see a lot of those things. Me, I was raised. My mom and my dad, they had me, and I was the only child they had together. So I was the only child for a while, and I learned how to entertain myself. I learned reading and being by myself, and I think those were some of the most valuable years of my life. Learning how to be by myself, and then my brothers coming in. I was about 8 when my brother was born, and that was a very nice age for me to learn how to be a little selfless and to learn everything's not about me. I think some people are struggling with a lot of the things they grew up with, those childhood traumas. I know that thing has been thrown out. Those words have been thrown around a lot these past couple of years. Childhood trauma. It very much affects people's present day social skills, and I see that a lot. Especially dealing with men. So, those are kind of things where, if they're talking too much, depending on what you're getting from. One of my favorite books is The Celestine Prophecy, and it shows in that book about energy vampires. Some people will come up and try to talk to you and suck all the energy out of you, either by talking too much or just talking about something that's not interesting or not intentional. So you got to be careful with those people. But now, I was very careful. I get paid by those same people now, right? So I'm like, hey, if there's an energetic exchange, we can make it a money thing, because there has to be some reciprocity going on, instead of just you just dumping what they call it, emotional vomiting. Some people just dump all of this stuff onto you, and you leave flustered, like, what just happened here? Like, no, we can't have that.
Yes, or you leave exhausted because you just like took on all that mental like capacity for someone else. It's like, whoa, that was crazy. A lot. Oh my gosh.
Okay. That's the intelligence. So they don't have the intelligence to know that they're affecting you. And sometimes, I hate to say it, because a lot of guys I deal with are usually what they consider to be alpha males. They make the decisions, they walk around with their chest big, but the real people that I want to reach out to are the folks who maybe don't speak up for themselves too much, who maybe are the quiet ones and just let things brush over and not set a boundary because it's the easier thing to do and they don't want conflict. Like, no, those, I feel for those people, because, the bullies will roll right over those folks. And I've seen it happen. I used to be one. If it wasn't for football, outside of sports, very shy, very timid. I was very ashamed of being bigger than all the other kids. So I developed this. I had this dual personality. When I was on the field or on the court, I was a totally different guy. But outside of that, super shy, very self-conscious. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's definitely both sides to that story. And I am one that I am way more accepting of those, like, I'll just let them dump, because you're right. I'm thinking, oh, maybe they didn't have an opportunity to, like, maybe they're somewhere where they didn't get to talk and let things out. So maybe
I'm very rude now. I hate to say it. I'm like, hey, is this going somewhere? What are we doing here? It's because at that point, also people look for victimhood, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay to have been victimized. We've all been victimized, but playing the victim is something that everybody's trying to do now, right? I see people trying to play the bully and the victim at the same time. You see people get online and they say crazy stuff in the comments, and then people will respond to the comment, and now they play the victim. How could you? I'm like, you started this thing. And so it's this weird dynamic now where people are trying to play both sides of the fence. So you got to be strong and rooted in where you're at, because people will try to, it's such confusion. That's what I say, like, the lack of emotional intelligence is just confusion, right? And people are so confused that they'll try to make you confused along the way. So.
That is the truth. Okay. So I want to see, does anyone have any questions so far? It's quiet in here. Does anyone have any questions for Wes? I don't know if.
What was the name of the book? The Self-Esteem?
The Celestine Prophecy.
Oh, Celestine Prophecy.
Okay. Yes.
C-E-L?
Yes.
Celestine.
E-S-T-I-N-E. Prophecy.
Thank you.
And that touches on, like, just people's emotional
intelligence, but also the idea that there are no coincidences in life, right? Everybody you meet, everybody you come across is there to either teach you something or to present, some form of information. It's on you to download it. Now, sometimes it's to show you what you don't like, right? It's to show you, hey, I'm not cool with this. this is not okay. But a lot of times, the people we run into are there for a reason. And I've learned that more here in Miami than anywhere. Because I run it, you might run into the janitor of a building or some homeless guy in Overtown, and you'll learn something about a person that you wouldn't expect. And I think I've appreciated that more here, where everybody's walking around with their nose up like they're better than everybody, and the people who are almost invisible in the room might know the most. And so, I can't judge a book by its cover.
That's good. If you don't follow Wes, you might want to follow him, because his posts and his stories and what he's doing throughout the day and his adventures, the kids call it now side quests. The side quests he gets on, like he'll meet someone homeless on the street. Like I saw that post, and that guy was dropping some nuggets.
That was at South by Southwest, right? You got all these tech people in Austin walking by him, these $1 million companies walking right by this guy, and he's spitting some knowledge about human, and if you don't have a soul, you're not human. And he dropped some knowledge on that post. Almost made me cry. And I'm like, man, this guy, I watched people walk right by this guy for 2-3 days straight. So,
and didn't even acknowledge him. Wow. That is so good. Any other questions out there? Because we're going
to have a question.
Oh,
hey, Sandra.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I am wonderful. So the question that I had, you mentioned as you were in the NFL that you really didn't have the guidance in order to know what to do, especially coming into fame at such a young age. And like you said, most people they don't really see you, they see your pocketbook. And we have a lot of young athletes who are thrown into the same situation. And I don't follow sport that much, but what I see based on the young athletes' lives, whether it's tabloid or whatever it is, in some scandal on social media, I still see there's still that lack of guidance. Have you ever thought of putting some kind of program together in order to nurture those young athletes? Particularly, a lot of athletes come from modest upbringing and being thrown into fame, into money. Like they have no idea what it is to create a wealth, create legacy for their families. That's why you see they buy a lot of houses, cars, this and that, like spending money all over the place, but without having the clear guidance on how to really use that opportunity to establish themselves and really build a legacy later on. Has that ever crossed your mind at any point to maybe start a program that way?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I started a youth mentorship program in 2022 once they approved the high school NIL, name, image, likeness ruling that high school players can get paid now. And once we started that, I started working with a few athletes, but I realized what I was up against. Unfortunately, we are up against the engine of social media, right? The engine of propaganda. And now you got kids getting paid in high school and college, and the first thing they want to buy is a big chain. And they send, and hey, I'm here in Miami. There's a lot of great athletes here. Mama and daddy and uncle and them will help you spend all your money up. So now I'm working against the social media propaganda, families coming with their hands out with no real general idea of how money works. So it's an uphill battle. So I have started a platform and a program, but unfortunately, the only people who reached out are from the wealthier communities, right? I know the people who really need it, I have to do this work pro bono, and I really have to take it to them because it's predatory. I tell people all the time, now they're getting paid. It's even more predatory, but it was predatory when I was coming up, and these coaches showing up at my school, calling my mom. Thankfully, I always got to shout out my dad because a lot of the college coaches prey on single Black women, right? They'll tell mama anything to get these young boys to their school. And I saw it, and I could see how uncomfortable they were running into my father. So, it's kind of, we got to teach them, I guess, to not fall for the cheese too much, but it's hard when all we see online is how much money you got, how much can you stunt and floss, you know what I mean? So it's tough, but yes, I have thought about starting a program like that.
I actually
thanks.
Oh, that was a great question, Dr. Sandra. The last time me and Wes spoke, I was saying to him, like, he would be such a great advocate for this conversation very young, like when they start, they know, they can see the potential in so many of these young kids from high school, some of them middle school. They just show so much like gifts and talents. And he said, the NFL, that's not what they're looking to pour into these young men or young athletes, unfortunately. Um, but this is such vital information, I think. Having someone like Wesley, I didn't mention, he's like 6'7". So when he comes in a room, of course, he gets attention. And I think just what you've lived through really speaks to the experience, letting these kids know where you were them, and now look where you are. Thank God
Yep.
for having support system, but also gaining this emotional intelligence and learning on the way.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And also with the money comes the women. All right. I have to warn my young brothers about this, because I thought, like my dad told me, hey, once you get that contract, you don't just become that much more handsome overnight. All right. All of a sudden, these women that were not interested in you a week ago are all over you now. And like I said, guys are stupid. We get the googly eyes, and come to find out, hey, I was preyed upon. I know it's hard to talk about for a lot of guys, but hey, I found out my daughter's mom was following me around the country, popping up at places I was at, Las Vegas, Miami, different places, and just running into, oh, you're here too? Oh, I didn't know. So I don't know if anybody ever watched The Game on BET or some of these shows, but real stuff like that happens. Poking holes in the condom, like these are real conversations you got to have with these young boys, and they're waiting for you at the end of the club, at the club. It's instances where now you become a mark. And so it's not just the money and you're successful. Like, no, now you are a target, right? They want to, hey, Sean Taylor here in Miami. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was killed in his home, trying to invite everybody to the house, right? That's another thing, especially when I talk to my inner city kids. Some of these guys, hey, look, I didn't grow up in the hood. I grew up hood adjacent. But I do remember being at my cousin's house and some of these houses where you just see people in and out of the house all day, right? Don't even know who in the house, just random people, screen door closing and opening, and that does something to your psyche. That does something to your mentality. When you get older, and I knew guys who couldn't be alone. They had to have a house full of people. They had to have and nuking them from the crib, and then something terrible happens that they did, and now you're on the hook. They don't care if it was your cousin that committed the crime. That's such and such from the Indianapolis Colts. That's Wesley Saunders' cousin. I tell it because my cousin was at my house, didn't tell me he had a warrant out for his arrest. I was harboring a fugitive, and he had done some pretty despicable things back in Indiana, like kidnapped a guy with drug-related charges. I had him in my house for a couple months, and then I found out through my agent, who had hired a private investigator to find out for me. So family, and he ended up going to prison for 6.5, almost 7 years. So these are things where if they come bust down my door, that's you already know what's going to be front page news. So those are some of the things I've had to deal with, and I've escaped narrowly, thank goodness.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Like, that's next level. Like, how would someone know this unless they, that's the beauty of having mentorship or people that have gone before you and they can pour into you. And no matter what industry, like, no matter what you do, if you have someone that's gone before you and can kind of like help you avoid situations that would have otherwise been some challenges, it's worth it. It is so worth it.
It's hard for people to think about, achieving everything that you want in life. Everything that you want to get, you got it. And then what happens, right? And then how do people act around you? Who acts different? Who, starts smoozing up? Who's plotting against you? There's a lot of that too. I received a letter from my aunt the day I signed my contract telling me that I owed her $300,000 for her helping raise me in my early years. Now, first of all, she did not help raise me like that. So this wasn't even a valid letter. And I didn't even tell my mom. Somebody else told my mother, and it almost came to blows, put it like that. But some people, the audacity of people, you gotta really be strong against the audacity of folks.
It's crazy out here. Okay. Audacity is the truth.
It's at an all-time high right now. So if you can get past that, and of course, one of the biggest things I tell people is hey, the Bible talks about it's a sin to be easily offended. Right now, thick skin is the best thing you can have in this world because people are going to try to get you and get up under you and cut you. And it's probably going to be somebody you know. And that's the unfortunate part. But if you can get past that, because I feel like all of a sudden everybody's hypersensitive. Hypersensitivity is killing us. But I think it's also because it's stress everywhere. It's stress in the food. It's stress on TV. Stress amongst coworkers. So it's a stressful situation if you let it.
Yeah, yeah. And I say that's why it's a good idea to try and eliminate as many stresses as you can. I don't watch the TV, watch the news. Like my family is like, how do you know what's going on? I don't. Like, I don't need to. Like, I can't control that. So I only see it when I go to the gym and it's on the, big screen. But otherwise, I think that has really helped relieve my stress. That and turning off the ringer on my phone because that's a stressor too. So just finding ways to help alleviate things that are stressing us and causing us to act a certain way. It's very wise.
I guess we can ask anybody dealing with any particular stresses right now on the call. Anybody want to share something that's in particular that's stressing them out at this very moment, other than gas prices?
The weather. I'm done. It was nice today, and it's snowing again. So.
Oh,
my sister. That's another story.
That's a whole other thing. Seasonal depression is real. I get it. It's the end of March. It's snowing again. Oh no.
Snowing.
Well, Miriam's all the way in Canada.
I know. God bless you.
Yeah. Oh Lord. That winter cannot end. But yeah, the seasons are definitely, I was talking to her about this when she was here a few months ago, but I have friends that live up north, and when it's winter, their whole mood and person, like they get depressed. They definitely get depressed.
Well, if you understand that this sun is a source of serotonin, and it can literally make you happier. It can be like when I go out there on that beach, sometimes I forget about what I was mad about. So that's the cheat code. And if you don't have it, like something natural like that, now you got to really force the issue on what can make you feel better. So obviously sometimes the closest thing is a cup of coffee or a little drink or something synthetic, but we really need to be leaning more into the natural, holistic ways.
Yeah. So touching on that, Wesley, one thing that there's a number of things that you do, breath work. You are always, he lives right by the beach, so he gets to enjoy that vitamin D and that vitamin C all at the same time. Like he was jumping in that ocean in like 60-degree weather. I was like, oh my gosh. But what are some of the things that you recommend to help alleviate stressors and to help people become a little bit more, hopefully being in nature helps people become more self-aware, with things around them? What do you suggest?
That's it. You just said it. The breath. I'm telling you, the number one thing is breath. I would probably say 98% of people are shallow breathers, right? Right now, even me saying the word deep breath, I'm sure somebody took a deep breath right now because you realize, whoa, maybe I wasn't breathing like that. So we're typically breathing just enough to keep ourselves alive, but we're really not flooding our body with oxygen how we should. And so that's where other sicknesses and illnesses come from. Illness ain't nothing but inflammation in the body, right? Diabetes, inflammation in the blood, pneumonia, inflammation in the lungs, arthritis, inflammation in the joints. So if you can alleviate inflammation, the quickest way to do it is oxygen. And I think people hear cardio and they think, I got to go run somewhere. Cardio, you can do cardio sitting right where you're at, right? So really deep, intentional breaths through the nose. Michelle, you've heard me say it before. There's an ancient saying that the nose is the gates of heaven. All right, when I hosted a retreat in Egypt, first thing I saw on those hieroglyphs is all of these pictures of people breathing, these deep breaths and them looking towards the sun. Sun, water, air, right? It ain't really that complicated. So now we got so much other stuff going on with us with acidy foods and sugar and brain fog and mucus. And, it's a recipe for disaster. So this water, as you know, Michelle, I bring my clients right out here to this water because also there's a technique in India called rapé, right, where they put the salt water in their nose and let it really flush out the nose. I don't think people really understand how much mucus we got going on up in this area, right? I was a guy, bunch of upper respiratory infections growing up, had my tonsils taken out because I snored so much, and come to find out it was the food and it was my lack of breathing through my nose. So I was always stopped up. If you don't know, they used to call, if you were a mouth breather back in the day, that was an insult, right? So you shouldn't be breathing through your mouth. All right, I don't know if some of y'all seen the TikTok trends where you tape your mouth to go to sleep. But if you can sleep with your mouth closed, you're already ahead of the game. And it helps with facial structure. All right, so breath is number one. I can get myself into or out of any mood depending on my breath and depending on the mood I'm in. So before I send an email, before I respond to somebody that might have said something online, I make sure I take these deep intentional breaths. And sometimes I got to switch up the nostrils. We have a right and a left brain. They've been lying to us and told us we got one brain. We got two, right? That's why they talk about the left and the right brain. And depending on which one is getting more action, is going to be the one you're using more, right? And so some people use their analytical side more. Some people use their creative side more. But we really want to be in balance and harmony. So that's pretty much what my go-to on getting myself to any kind of mind state at any time. You'll see me in the grocery store. I'm sure people think I'm on drugs or something, but I'm over there.
Well, that's so good though, because that's a part of the 5 things they mentioned: self-regulation. So that's helping.
You got to regulate the body. No quicker way to regulate yourself than through the breath. And oftentimes we get too much CO2 in our system. And so sometimes it's more important what you're breathing out than what you're breathing in. So make sure you get a real good exhale too while you're breathing. Trust me, I make my mom do this. I go home. I grew up in North Carolina. We got Bojangles and biscuits and all types of sweet tea, some of the worst food that you can eat. They're delicious, not great for you. Everybody there dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. That's only because the food is outpacing the oxygen and you're not alleviating the CO2 in time. All right. So if you're not out running and doing sprints and doing cardio and sweating, then chances are you're not releasing the proper amount of CO2. And that's going to cause stress in the body. All right. It's really, we ain't nothing but a little science experiment. We're nothing. We're just the same as the trees outside. We need adequate amount of oxygen and water to survive and thrive.
Oh, so good. Okay. Tell me if it's now appropriate to play the slideshow that you sent.
Oh yeah, you can play it. Yeah, you can play the first minute.
Okay, let me
see if you can
share this with you guys. Share. Oh, can you guys see me sharing my screen? It says it is. Hold on. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see that.
We started at the beginning. Can you hear it?
Let's see. Go ahead and play it.
Did you hear that?
I cannot hear. I can't.
Hold on. You can?
I cannot.
Oh, hold on. I just had it a second ago.
It's all good.
Share. There we go.
But you hit on it.
I can hear now. Yeah.
Receiver in this team had more than 7, but you hit on it too. His yards after the catch are really impressive. Smelly fires back, has a completion. And it's Wesley Saunders, the young tight end, rumbling toward the end zone. Loses the football as he's going to the goal line. It's fumbled out of the end zone. A touchback and a huge mistake for the tight end Saunders, who was headed for the house. Wow.
Just wrapped the ball up and get in the end zone. You could see it coming when the defender's running from behind and punches it out. It wasn't a matter of him reaching out with the ball or anything like that. He just had it tucked under his arm and running. But boy, you got to protect that ball and feel the guy coming from behind.
Oh, first of all, Saunders is a freshman, a big player, comes out, gets in the...
Yeah. You're on mute, Michelle. But yeah, for those of you who were able to see the clip, that was a clip from my freshman year of college on national TV, my first national TV game. And I knew everybody back home was watching, 18 years old. I catch the ball, run 50 yards, and the guy punches the ball out at the 1 yard line right before my first touchdown. Super embarrassing. Wanted to crawl up under the nearest rock and just disappear from the earth. Like it was bad. Now we still won the game and all that, but it was one of those pivotal moments for my career where I was like, okay, I can let this define me, or I can move on and really become a beast and never let this happen again, ever. So yeah, that's one of the clips that I show to young people because they always want to see the highlights and your touchdowns and all this. Well, this was almost touchdown. Almost don't count. I ran all that way and didn't finish the deal. So part of when I talk about, as we started the segment, I said the missing pillar to the keys to emotional intelligence is execution. And so if you don't execute, all of that other stuff don't matter.
Oh my gosh. And they made sure that you knew that. And the commentators and everyone's
replayed it over and over. Because they also had to review the film because it was so close. They didn't know if I'd actually scored the touchdown or if he had knocked it out 2 inches prior. And the video confirmed that it was a fumble. So it was, yeah, but humbling, right? So humility. Hey, it's one of those things that happen. And I'm better off for it now 20 years later.
That's right. That's why you're here actually sharing your story.
Absolutely.
So if anyone wants to know how to work with you, should I go back? I can go back on there because I know I stopped sharing.
Yeah, it was a couple slides on there. Yeah, you can go to the end.
Let me go back.
And if anybody got any questions or, comments, concerns.
I like how you're comfortable sharing all that, like all the mistakes and all like the stuff you've done. I like it, yeah.
Thank you. It's all Googleable. I will say I've met a lot of people in the past. I was insecure for a while because people would, especially right after I got suspended, I would meet people, especially in corporate settings, and they would see me, and I would know for a fact that they were looking down at their phone, Googling me at that moment. And I've been in some rooms where people's energy changed towards me after they see some of those Google results that popped up first, right? Now, of course, we paid a lot of money, my lawyers and people, to get some of that stuff scrubbed as far as, my children and my suspension. So that's not the first thing that pops up now. So now, squeaky clean image now. But, at one point, it was very much a deterrent for people. So, I felt some type of way about that. But, of course, if people are judging you off of what they Googled, then you don't really need to know them anyway.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so can you see this when your life? Is it showing for you guys?
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you can go to the end. Oh yeah. So that's just the Win with Wes company. I try to compare everything to obviously sports. What's your touchdown, first down, or Super Bowl, and my 3 P's: practice, peace, and profit. Just going forward. I know we how much, where we at on time, Michelle?
I think it's 9:00. Oh, it's 9:02.
Okay. All right.
We started a little late, so yeah. I know. But yeah, if you want to talk through these slides.
Yeah, just real quick. This probably, obviously, transparency is super important when we build on vulnerability and trust as far as emotional intelligence goes. But the 3 P's is practice, peace, and profit. Now, number 1 is practice because on the football field, we have a saying that the eye in the sky don't lie. After every practice, after everything we do, we go in there and we watch film. And we watch film as a team. And if you want to see a grown man squirm, watch film with him after a practice and he messed up, right? Because they know where to run. You messed up at practice. We got 5, 6 different camera angles of this play that you messed up, and we're going to address it as a team. And I think it's super important because I know in real life, we don't do that. We don't watch the film. We don't watch where we messed up and try to go back and correct it. A lot of times we just say, well, that's just how I am. That's just how I am. And a lot of people lean on that. No, part of this, we got to practice. You have to practice. I don't know if my wife is on the call, but The Way of the Superior Man, one of my favorite books, helped me practice how to be more engaging with my woman on a way that didn't seem condescending. Men, hey, my voice was a little bellowing sometimes. I had to lower my voice. I had to practice how I address things. And so oftentimes it's not just good enough to be self-aware of what we're where our shortcomings are, but you got to practice. It's like a muscle. You got to lift that muscle. Like every time you want to snap back or say something smart to your husband or to your wife, that's the time to practice in real time. And I think one of the biggest ones I've dealt with also is as far as is delayed anger, right? Be slow to anger, quick to listen, slow to speak. I know in the Black community, especially, a lot of people grew up with whoopings, spankings, right? I don't spank my kids because I knew that, now I know that ruling with anger is not necessarily the way to go, right? A lot of times we got whooped when we were kids because mom and daddy were mad right then. Had they, took a couple breaths, took some time, then they probably could have came back at it and maybe had a different response. But Michelle, as you've heard, I like to say, if the only tool you own is a hammer, then every problem begins to resemble a nail. And I know a lot of people just out there hammering away, doing the same things they've been doing for decades, and they don't practice any of this stuff. Or they're just, like I said, at that last bullet, paralysis by analysis. You're thinking too much, and you end up not doing anything at all, which is probably worse anyway, right? So at least practice some of these things. So move on to the next one, Jill.
I like that. And that's in anything in life, right?
Anything. Got to practice. Also,
and
sociability.
Review.
Sociability. A couple of my clients, they're looking for love now, right? One of my clients, he's 60. He's divorced, but he's very much in shape, and we go out. We have to, we don't go to the club necessarily, but we go out to different places. I've taken him actually to get styled, got him some new clothes, because how we show up says a lot about us. As you can see, how we show up to the game, we got to feel good about ourselves. And the first thing I noticed with a lot of football players, we have helmet syndrome. I can't tell you how much money I spent down here in Miami my first couple years in the league trying to impress people I didn't know or people who didn't even like me, because I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing. They told us we're supposed to come down here and stunt and pop bottles and rent exotic cars and go to the strip club. And I was just out of a lot of money, and I realized at the end of the night, I'm the one signing the check, and nobody even told me thank you. Once we talk about that audacity, Michelle, once I saw people were not grateful for what I was providing, that made it a lot easier to remove myself, all right? Mm-hmm. And so, and of course, the gut is the second brain, right? We got to get our gut right. I know a lot of people probably right now, as I'm talking, y'all hungry, right? We get hangry, and we let our emotions be dictated by our lack of food or usually hydration. I tell people all the time, if you're super hungry, starving, probably dehydrated, probably need more fluid and electrolytes than you do food. There's actually 3 or 4 days a month where you shouldn't even be eating anyway. Your body probably doesn't need to eat because it needs to refilter and regulate itself. That's right. We talk about that regulate word. So probably the hardest thing I've had to do in coaching is get people to stop eating. The best thing I've ever done in my life is fast. Fasting changed my life. It changed my clarity, cleared my face. My teeth got whiter. Everything got better once I started fasting. I'm gonna just be real. And that's when I realized that the body is an autonomous engine ready to clean itself.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is really good.
And of course, the pressure of winning. Everybody, we get we feel the pressure everywhere. Work, marriage, right? A lot of, from what I hear, when men speak about marriage, they feel like a failure after the divorce has been declared, right? Marriage, you want to feel like you won at life, and admitting that your marriage failed is something that people carry with them for a long time. And I've never been through that myself. My parents were never married. I often talk about that being one of the biggest bright spots, is that they were never married, but I saw how they co-parented without even liking each other. And I never felt that from them. So I think that, my first signs of emotional intelligence was my parents, right? They genuinely didn't like one another, but they did everything necessary for me to thrive. And I never felt the energy from them or any kind of animosity between them. So that's all I got. I think that's the last slide, right, Michelle? But
yeah.
If anybody got any questions,
that's
that's me on the right there. That was when I got dismissed from college. I was suspended for my senior year because I accepted money back in 2010. And you see that picture they had, that was on the front page of the newspaper. They can't wait to, people can't wait to break you down. They build you up to tear you down. And the same people who have been writing how great of a football player I was, couldn't wait to put my face on the front of the paper for accepting money like and making it seem like I was a criminal. So I think a lot of the emotional intelligence is self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself. If you're dealing with something right now, I don't know who needs to hear this, but give yourself some grace. You did the best you could with the information that you were given at the time, right? And I wish somebody could have told me that, because for a while, the NFL had me feeling like I was a cancer, like something was wrong with me because I was addicted to a substance that they gave me, right? And so I had to forgive myself. And then on that path of forgiveness, I was able to forgive others who had wronged me, right? Which is another load off, forgiving those who have wronged you. Some people holding on to hurt from 20, 30 years ago. Let that hurt go so you can evolve. There's levels to this. And some of us, we still stuck on level 1, level 2. So this is my information right here. Of course, one of my favorite quotes, Muhammad Ali: "Service to others is the rent that we pay for our room here on earth." We're doing this for each other. We are a community, y'all. HBN. Thank you, Michelle, for having me, and y'all for listening during this time. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me come back over here. Can you guys see me, or is it still showing the share?
I can see you.
Okay. Thank you. That was so good and so insightful. It doesn't always have to be like so specific to like what we're doing, but there's so many nuggets that you drop that tie into just how to be more aware, how to regulate, how like all the things that you need as wellness leaders, right? And whatever we're doing, we're leading because it's our business. And so these are the things we need to just have more consciousness about so that we can move forward and expand and grow. We want to continue to grow and expand and help others do the same. So
yeah, we got to be honest. Thank you, Michelle. I don't know if we got any other athletes on the call. Anybody played anything in junior high school, but the more I get into this business world and the realm, I run into a lot of people who never played sports or competitive sports on a team. And that shows up in the corporate space and how they work with each other, how they work with one another. I see some, hey, you might have been valedictorian or summa cum laude, but you was in the library by yourself studying. That was you that took that test by yourself. You didn't have to work on a team and sometimes sit at the end of the bench for the betterment of the team, right? And I see that coming up a lot now with egos. Like, oh, Pete, you're used to what they call main character energy. Some people, they carry that main character energy, and the best opportunities I've ever had have come from me humbling myself in the room and being quiet and knowing I'm probably not the smartest one in the room and kind of taking a step back just so I can get a leg up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that is so true. That is so true. Oh, great words to close out by. You're getting so many thank yous in the comments.
Thank y'all.
Swan is saying thank you so much for sharing your story. She appreciates all your transparency. Dr. Sandra saying thank you, Wes. Great insight. And Nina is like, I wish my man had heard this. We recorded it, Nina. So if you need the recording, let me know. We can share it
with for your man. Or you can tell him to call me.
Oh, even better. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Wesley, for taking time out. This is a busy man, y'all. He always has things on his calendar. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us.
Oh, anytime.
This is so good. We just totally appreciate you and everything that you're doing and just sharing a message of growth and just health and all the things. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank y'all for joining for the long haul. Y'all was on the whole time too. I
know you guys are so good. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I am stopping the recording.
All right.